Welcome back. In a recent IMF and World Bank report, Nigeria's economic outlook is set to have improved going by the 2014 report. But that report also recognizes some looming economic uncertainties due to dwindling oil prices and output. The Global Finance Institutions advise reforms that will revise the persistent economic weakness, which the central bank governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, fears may lead to a recession from 2016 if not checked. Mr. Emefiele recommends a shift in policies and also a review of our priorities. Joining me now on the News at 10 to look at the state of our economy is the former president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Mazi Okechukwu Mwebu. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you very much.
What do you make of that IMF report? Because just before we came back from the break, we were talking about it and you said you had no faith in the IMF and the World Bank. So what are you saying? We should disregard this report?
Yes, because not that we should disregard it, but I have no faith in them. That's my subject, what I'm going to say.
Okay.
There's no doubt that we're already in a recession. Even though the CBN says it's 2016. You know, recession means suffering. If you say, I don't suffer, we are suffering in a recession right now, because if you go out there, you see people saying, hey, this is too difficult. Now, I remember the president came in and he was talking about mostly corruption, which he's fighting, security is fighting, but he has not addressed the economy. I think that is the next thing. And I saw the vice president talking so much about the economy, which means they are looking at it. But in doing that, they have not, you know, in this country, when the president came on, the stock exchange was on the upswing. Now, after nothing has happened, today we are crashing. And remember, too, that economists say when there are two changes in the GDP between two quarters, that there's a recession. It's difficult to forecast a recession. And this is where I disagree with IMF and World Bank. They're very difficult. But you discover that for us, in the second quarter of this year, our GDP is about 2.57. And the first quarter of 2015 was about 4.2%. So there is a serious decline.
So how do we get it back up? How do we get our figures looking green again?
Beautiful. That's what we now talk of economic diversification, because a lot of talks are going on all over the place on how we can change the face of the economy. And to change it, there are so many dislocations, economic dislocations, social dislocation, so many dislocations we are not addressing. We need to look at our value system. We need to look at our productive base. Agriculture is not being addressed. Solid minerals. We have a lot of illegal mining all over the place, and these are not being addressed. So once we're able to address some of these things, because if you pump money now, it's going to be a waste.
It sounds like what you're saying is scaring investors. I can imagine if you're saying that if you pump money into the economy now, it will be a waste.
Yes.
So it sounds like you're saying investors don't come yet until we get it right.
The investors won't even come. I'm not telling them not to come, but I know they won't come because of the figures that we have. For instance, you look at, I just gave you some figures about the shape of the economy. There are so many dislocations. For instance, in doing business, you just mentioned it to me. What do you make of a situation where you cannot, as a matter of fact, register a company within a space of 1 week? Whereas in other areas, it's done in hours. Now, there are so many taxation. You cannot even get credit. You working here, you cannot go to a bank and get consumer credit. But consumer credit drives the economy. So these are some of the things I'm talking about. Remember, the House of Reps says declare emergency on unemployment. They see the stack figures. So
yeah, I can imagine. Mazi Okechukwu, thank you for joining us on News at 10. Really appreciate your input in this matter. I've been discussing the economy, the state of the economy, with the former president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Mazi Okechukwu. Now, experts and industry players in the downstream sector of oil and gas from all parts of Africa are meeting in Lagos, where they're comparing notes on emerging trends and challenges. Participants at the forum, organized under the aegis of oil trading and logistics, have asked the federal government to do the needful by deregulating the downstream sector.
This week, for every serious corporate in the downstream oil and gas sector in Africa, a forum like this is the melting point of ideas and growth strategies. It's the 9th edition of the Oil Trading and Logistics Downstream Africa 2015 Expo. OTL has carefully put down 10 topics across the value chain in this expo, and this panel is attempting to explore solutions to infrastructural deficits, policy for growth and investments.
I heard recently a policy change towards not using private depots to store petroleum products. Now, one can understand the abuses that have come from using private depots, but I think rather than throw the baby out with the bathwater, it's to engage the private sector.
Some of the things that we are also looking into is to the LPG market, which is a very strong passion of the corporation. Because as it is now, we are all relying on DPK, which at the end does not really add much in terms of growth.
So much for what the government is doing. What is really needed?
We must sit right here, look straight into our eyeballs, because policies of government is killing the downstream, and the downstream must survive.
We've always led in this space, but sadly, Ghana is now providing the lead in downstream actions.
One of the issues that we have managed to do today is deregulation of price in Ghana.
The investors at this forum do not agree any less.
I would rather want to chip my tanker onto the rail and get that man or that woman that needs my oil in Maduguri for the same cost.
My challenge to them will be to, as quickly as possible, fashion a model that ensures that the larger citizenry is protected from whatever seeming impacts of deregulation there may be.
No doubt, the best in class have been assembled to galvanize growth for the industry. OTL, as platform providers, have promised to engage positively those who and should drive the change process for a more robust oil and gas sector. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
And here's Anne Wawudu now with business news.
You first. First Bank.
Hello and welcome to Business News. The sum of 389 billion naira has been distributed to the federal, state and local government for the month of September. Addressing journalists after the Federation Account Allocation Committee meeting in Abuja, the Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Mrs. Anastasia Nwobia, said gross statutory revenue received for the month fell by over 30 billion naira compared to what was received the previous month. She also said that there was a revenue loss of $32 million following a drop in the prices of crude oil. FBN Holdings is a household name in Nigeria's financial sector, and the institution is not resting on its hours in the delivery of quality service to its customers. As part of measures to unify its different subsidiaries, the company has launched a new brand identity. FBN Holdings consists of FBN Capital, FBN Securities Limited, FBN Capital Assets Management Limited, FBN Trustees Limited, FBN Funds Limited, and FBN Capital Partners Limited. All of these will now be referred to as FBN Quest.
In a world where trust means almost everything, especially in the financial sector, a reliable partner like FBN Holdings come to mind. With a parent company, the First Bank PLC, with an imprint in the industry spanning over 100 years, and it's obvious that this year's annual investors conference, something interesting is in the offing.
An independent party should.
And so the CEO of FBN Capital launches a new brand identity for the merchant banking and asset management group. It is FBN Quest, a model created to ease customer accessibility and improve service delivery to clients. On the sideline of this year's investors conference, the officials of the company hold a press conference to explain the sense behind the FBN Quest.
It allows us to offer a broad range of services in a much more, I would say, simple and effective, and what we believe is a client-centric, much more client-centric way.
So we believe that this arrangement, by making it customer-centric, by making it simple and understandable, is one that will actually enhance the business volumes of our investment banking franchise.
FBN Quest launched. Clients are indeed in for a swell time in service delivery from all of the FBN Holding subsidiaries.
We want to do it in a holistic way, that when our clients deal with us, when we move them from one solution platform to another, they are still dealing, and they get the feeling, they get the perception that they are dealing with a single entity.
Question, it always comes up.
And back at the investors conference, the speakers take on issues on reinventing the Nigerian economy.
So the next generation will have better healthcare, better education, better hygiene, etc.
FBN Quest is the new fuel, and here is the new look, but the real deal is the delivery of easy and quality service for everyone. Seun Wakimbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange saw bearish trading today, ending the midweek session at 29,396.31. Bisi Adebayo has the rest of the day's trading figures.
Hello and welcome to the stock market reports. The bearish sentiment continued for a sixth straight session at the Nigeria equities market, dragging the benchmark index 0.60% lower. The all-share index ended midweek session at 29,396.31, while market capitalization decreased to 10.10 trillion naira. Market breadth remained negative with 11 gainers and 33 losers. Now Guinness led the laggards table with a 5% drop. WAPCO and Stanbic IBTC also lost 2.24% and 7.51% respectively. Seplat, Dangote Cement and Ashaka Cement were the day's top three gainers. Major contributors to market turnover were Sterling Bank, Zenith Bank and Transcorp. When the closing gong rang, investors had exchanged 386.28 million shares valued at 1.91 billion naira in 2,923 deals. And that's a wrap on the stock market reports. I am Bisi Adebayo.
Oh, thanks a lot, BC. It was mixed sentiments in markets across the globe today. Let's take a look at some of those figures. It's a wrap on business news for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I am Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues with the Marachi.
You first. First Bank.
Next on the news at 10, defending champions Golden Eagles of Nigeria are ready for a must-win clash against the Joeys of Australia in the round of 16 at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Details coming up in sports news. Please stay with us.